So thanks a lot for having me here. I just want to start by saying that it's really a great pleasure and a great privilege to receive this award. Some of you also have done PhDs in their lives, and it's a long journey and it can be a very difficult endeavor. So receiving such a PhD research grant really helps a lot. What I want to explore in my research is how sustainable investing can help us reduce corporate carbon emissions. And I came across this topic because I've been working in the sustainable finance industry myself for 4 years. And these sort of questions, what we're doing, does it really create an impact? Does it really make any sort of difference? They've always been very important for me. So what my first reflex was to look into the literature. And I was surprised to see that indeed we have very little evidence. Of course, there are some papers out there that theorize the role that sustainable finance can play in driving change. But we have very little evidence that there is any sort of change within firm behavior. So this is why I call this topic essentially the green elephant in the room. Everything we're talking about at the end, will it help us combat climate change? There are several possible ways of exploring this question. And I think first of all, we have to think about how sustainable finance could in theory create an impact. There's a really helpful paper that was published in 2020 by Colbert et al., so some researchers from the University of Zurich. And they identified 3 main mechanisms which show us how sustainable finance could, incentivize companies to improve their performance. The first one is shareholder engagement. So, as active owners, investors, they can talk to companies behind closed doors. They can also file shareholder resolutions. That has a very direct impact, of course. The second one is slightly more indirect. It's called capital allocation. If responsible investors divest from non-green companies, then the cost of capital, and importantly also the cost of debt, coming back to what Ha-Tuyen just presented, might increase. And then thirdly, we have a bunch of sort of indirect effects. And that can be that through the pure benchmarking of company sustainability performances, you might induce improvement because no company wants to be seen publicly as worse than their peers. So in my research, what I want to do is I want to further these theories and I want to help to filling the empirical gap. And I want to do that using mixed methods. I want to do that using mixed methods because my observation is that so far, qualitative and quantitative research in sustainable finance have remained very self-contained. And I'm convinced that we need to combine the strength of both if we want to fully understand the impact question. Specifically, I want to use case studies, and so far I've identified 2 which I believe are very promising. So let me just present one of them. You might have heard of the investor coalition called Climate Action 100+, C100+. It's the biggest investor coalition in the world. They were created in 2017, and they have by now today more than 600 investors who have joined the coalition, and they have over $60 trillion US dollars of assets under management and advice. So it's really a very significant initiative. And my question is, C100+, through their engagement strategies, they use lots of different ways of engaging. They participate in proxy voting. They file resolutions together. But they also just talk to CEOs. Has C100+ helped us to improve the carbon performance of the biggest polluters in the world? Publicly, that's the biggest polluters. And what is important to note is Climate Action 100+, they started off with 100 focus companies, and they selected them purely based on the carbon footprint. So the biggest publicly listed companies with the largest carbon footprint. This is a great opportunity for research because, speaking in econometrical terms, it represents an exogenous shock. There is no self-selection. Companies cannot, opt in or opt out. They're just selected. So I want to exploit this exogenous shock first with qualitative research. I want to interview C100+ investors, and I want to know, in their opinion, what are the engagement strategies that really work, that drive change. And then I also want to interview CSR managers of companies, because I want to understand, from a firm perspective, which factors within a firm really lead to change in firm behavior. And then I want to complement that with quantitative analysis. So what I want to do is here I want to use panel regressions on a company level. I want to use a method that is, I think, again, very similar actually to what Ha-Tuyen just presented. It's an event study called a difference in difference analysis. And here I want to use, again, using slightly technical terms, first a regression discontinuity analysis, and then different matching techniques. The goal of these quantitative analyses are always the same. I want to compare the performance of C100+ companies with the performance of similar companies that are not affected by C100+. If I can prove that there's a change in the performance in the C100+ companies, but no change in the performance of the similar not-affected companies, then C100+ essentially makes a difference. I know, of course, that this this is easier to say than to actually do, and there will be challenges around data availability, challenges around data quality. But I'm optimistic, and I'm very excited to start this research. And also now with the PhD award, I will have more peace of mind, and I will have more time to focus on my research. So again, thank you very much.